Tony Stewart just sat down for one of the most honest interviews any NASCAR driver has ever given, and he did not hold back one bit. Now that he no longer works for NASCAR, Smoke is finally saying everything he has been wanting to say for years. Stewart recently joined Paul Tracy on the Racers Unchained podcast, and what came out of that conversation is something every NASCAR fan needs to hear. He talked about crashes that almost ended his life, the real politics behind closed doors at NASCAR, and why he walked away from the sport he helped build. Tony Stewart grew up in Columbus, Indiana. He started racing go-karts when he was just 7 or 8 years old. His very first sponsor was a guy named Bob Franke, who owned a local Dairy Queen. Every time young Tony won a race, he would bring the trophy to Bob, and Bob would give him free ice cream. From there, Stewart moved into bigger and faster cars. He won 4 USAC championships. In 1995, he did something no driver had ever done before. He won the Midget, Sprint, and Silver Crown championships all in the same year. They called it the Triple Crown. By 1996, Stewart was racing in the brand new Indy Racing League. For his very first Indianapolis 500, he started on the pole and led the first 44 laps, setting a rookie record. His engine gave out before halfway, but the racing world had seen enough. This kid was special. Then came the crash that changed everything. The conditions were brutal. Stewart remembered it clearly. He said, "It was so hot that it just looked like a mirage, like you see in the desert. You couldn't see the track. All you could see was the heat waves." Stewart was running strong that day. His teammate, Mark Dismore, was out there too. Both of them ended up blowing out their right rear tires during the race. When Stewart's tire went, he spun around 180 degrees and slammed into the wall flat on his left side. The damage to his body was awful. He broke his collarbone, shoulder blade, the back of his left hip, and his pelvis. For weeks after the crash, he could not even walk upstairs. He had to move into his mother's spare bedroom just to recover. Stewart called it probably one of the biggest gut checks of my life. But here is where the story takes a turn that nobody expected. While he was lying in his mom's house, barely able to move, the phone started ringing. Rick Hendrick called and offered him a seat in the number 25 Cup car. Barry Green called and offered him a ride in the CART IndyCar Series. These were 2 of the biggest opportunities any young driver could dream of. Stewart said no to both of them. His thinking was simple. You work your whole life climbing a ladder, one step at a time. When you get to that second to last step, you better make sure you are ready before you take that final leap. There was another big reason too. The CART Series ran a lot of road courses, and Stewart was not comfortable with that. He said, "So, to sit there and get in an Indy car and try to figure out how to be good in an Indy car on a road course, I thought was suicide for me. At least the stock car stuff on the oval. I knew ovals." So instead of jumping straight to the top, Stewart eased into NASCAR by running some Busch Series races with Joe Gibbs. It was the smart move. He learned the cars. He learned the tracks. And by the time he got to Cup full-time in 1999, he was ready. That patient approach led to 3 Cup Series championships in 2002, 2005, and 2011. His 2011 title was one of the greatest finishes in NASCAR history. He and Carl Edwards ended the season tied on points, but Stewart won the tiebreaker with 5 wins to Edwards' 1. He became the first owner-driver to win the championship since Alan Kulwicki in 1992. Looking back, Stewart sees that Las Vegas crash as the moment that sent his whole career in a new direction. It was not just a setback, it was the push he needed to find his true path. When Stewart made the switch from IndyCar to NASCAR, he compared it to going from the Jetsons to the Flintstones. IndyCar was high-tech and cutting-edge. NASCAR stock cars felt almost simple by comparison, but Stewart adapted and became one of the best to ever do it. He is still the only driver in history to win championships in both IndyCar and NASCAR. Now here is where things get really interesting. This is the part where Stewart drops the truth bombs about NASCAR. He told a story about a drivers' meeting, where about 20 drivers gave 5 suggestions on how to make the racing better. A NASCAR official, someone who had never driven a race car and never worked on one, told all 20 of those drivers that every single idea was wrong. The official said their data showed the opposite. Stewart was furious about it. Now that he is free from NASCAR, he is not afraid to say so. He said that making comments like that before would have gotten him fined. But then he added, "I don't work for them anymore. I can say whatever the hell I want." Stewart also went after NASCAR's charter system. When it was created in 2016, the idea was to give teams financial security. But in Stewart's eyes, it turned into a way for NASCAR to control everything. He called the charter agreement a joke. He is not the only one who feels that way. Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, through their team 2311 Racing, along with Front Row Motorsports, sued NASCAR over it. They accused the organization of running a monopoly. It even came out during the trial that NASCAR leadership wanted Stewart's own racing league, the Superstar Racing Experience, shut down. All of this played into why Stewart-Haas Racing closed its doors at the end of 2024. The four-car team that Stewart built with Gene Haas was done. Over 300 people lost their jobs. Stewart said the sponsorship challenges had become too much. Stewart caught a lot of blame for those job losses, and that bothered him. He said the team made the announcement early in the season so employees would have time to find new work. As for the direction NASCAR was heading, Stewart made it clear. He said, "With their battle with NASCAR and the direction that things are going, it's not a direction that I want to be a part of." But do not think for a second that Tony Stewart is done racing. At 54, this man is still going full speed. He is now in his third season as an NHRA Top Fuel dragster driver. In 2025, he won 2 races and captured the regular season championship before finishing 5th in the final standings. For 2026, he joined Elite Motorsports to drive their R+L Carriers Top Fuel dragster. He also qualified for the Wright Trailer's Top Fuel All-Star Callout, a special race for the top 8 drivers, by earning the 4th most qualifying points from last season. And on top of all that, Stewart made a surprise return to NASCAR in February 2026. He drove the number 25 Ram for Cowlick Racing in the Truck Series season opener at Daytona. It was his first NASCAR race since 2016. He spent a whole month practicing on iRacing with his spotter TJ Bell to get ready. His return ended with a wreck 39 laps in, but Stewart was not upset about it. He told reporters afterward, "I didn't think I was going to be here 10 years after I retired, so I think we have to learn to never say never." When asked if the Daytona 500 might be next, Stewart shut that down fast. He said he will never run the Daytona 500 again, even though it is the one big race he never won. When a reporter reminded him of that fact, Stewart fired back with classic smoke humor. "Thanks for the reminder, Matt, because I never was going to remember that I hadn't won the Daytona 500. That is Tony Stewart, still racing, still winning, still saying exactly what he thinks. And now that nobody can find him for it, the truth is coming out louder than ever.